Hello everyone and welcome to the Art of Storytelling. They say, first impressions are what matters, and even though I don't agree with this notion when applied to people, I totally agree when applied to stories. The first episode of a TV show is arguably its most important, and the opening sequence can tell you a lot about the quality, the effort, and the vision put on what you are about to watch. For example, there are stories that focus on action and they make sure to let you know it will have a great, fast-paced, well-choreographed, and intense fight scenes that will instantly hook you and set up what will be the tone of the story. Other stories throws you for a loop, making the audience feel as confused and disoriented as the characters on screen are. And if it's a good show, eventually everything will make sense and said opening will have a great rewatching value. There are stories that start showing events that will happen in the future, completely changing how you would have perceived the story as a whole if you didn't see where the story will eventually go. But today I will focus on how a great opening sequence can give you a great insight about the personality and the life of a character without any expository dialogue, only using actions, small details, and brilliant editing. So let's start. The first important piece of information we get is that our main character, Arata, is watching a news report about the government implementing a plan to combat a race of NEETs and hikikomoris in Japan. In this country, people that aren't studying, employed, or training are labeled as NEETs, and people that withdraw from society and never leave their houses are called hikikomoris. The fact that Arata is watching this news isn't accidental. This tells us that he's interested in what he's watching and wants to learn more about this. At the same time, he's talking on the phone with their friends, lying to them that he just finished working and that he's meeting them for drinks, showing Arata as someone that really concerns about what other people and society might think about him. By the way the conversation goes, it seems he hasn't kept in touch with them for a really long time, and we learn this while watching him shaving. This at first might seem irrelevant, but it's actually a really important piece of information. I'll come back to this later. Then it cuts to him taking the train and a text pops up, informing the audience that he is 27 and unemployed. I usually hate when important information is delivered to the audience in the form of text that isn't inside the universe of the story, or when it is delivered through terrible dialogue like characters explaining they are X, Y, and Z. These methods are really lazy ways to deliver important information, so at first I was kind of disappointed when ReLife did the same. But then I realized that this isn't an expository text but the name of the episode. My thoughts immediately went from "oh, how disappointing" to "you clever son of a bitch." Then we get our first brilliant match cut transitioning from the train to my favorite scene of the opening sequence, the interview scene. The very first question the interviewers ask Arata is why he quit his last job only after 3 months, and then he bullshits them saying that he felt he could live up to his potential elsewhere. At this moment I bursted in laughter, because that's exactly the same bullshit answer I always give during my job interviews. And what is great about the delivery of this line is a close-up shot of Arata's face, hiding his eyes and showing that he's sweating, showing us that not only he's really nervous, but that not even himself believes his lies. This scene also let us know that Arata probably is an uncommitted and inconsistent person that does everything half-assed. Then it fades to the bar scene, and the first question Arata is asked is, "How is work?" And his answer, hanging in there while smiling in a really forced way, confirms that he was lying during the first scene. We get our last match cut to him going home and asking himself, hanging in where? With a very melancholic and sad look in his eyes, telling us that he's not happy with the direction his life is going. Then he gets a call from her mom, and by the really angry tone on her voice, informing Arata that he will not receive support from his parents anymore because he's old as fuck, we can assume that his failed job interview was just one more of many, and probably is something really normal for him to be unemployed. Before continuing, I would like to clarify something about the structure of this whole opening sequence. When I first saw it, I thought the timeline was as follows. Arata receives a phone call. I thought it was a phone call from the interviewers. Arata gets into the train and then goes to the job interview. Arata goes to meet with his friends. Arata goes home. But while I was writing the script for this video, I realized that the timeline actually is Arata had a failed job interview. Arata receives a phone call from his friends, and given that he's shaving a somewhat grown beard, it's been at least a couple of days since the interview. Arata gets into the train and starts to remember his failed interview over and over and over again. Arata is so distracted by his thoughts that he doesn't realize his friend was trying to call to him in the bar. Arata goes home. It's been only 2.5 minutes and we already know so much about Arata's life and personality. We know that he lives alone, he is a NEET, that he smokes, which is a brilliant setup for a joke that happens later in the episode. That unlike Sato from Welcome to the NHK, another show that features a NEET protagonist, he's quite organized and clean with his personal space. That he is really half-assed and inconsistent with his professional and most likely personal life. He lies a lot. We know he worries about what other people think about him, that he's the kind of person to overindulge into his problems. He's not happy with his life, that he's been able to survive thanks to the support of his parents, that their parents are disappointed of him, and that now that his parents are gonna stop supporting him, he's in very deep shit. This is the first time since watching Welcome to the NHK that only after the opening sequence I have thought, fuck, this is me, this is my life. One side of me really excited with how genius a characterization was done only with this opening sequence, and that what I'm about to watch is going to be nothing short of amazing. And the other side of me really disappointed with how shitty and pathetic my life is. Fuck. Anyway, it is really refreshing to see that nowadays, with every fucking show apparently being about needs and or hikikomoris, there is a show that actually wants to portray them as real human beings and doesn't use this characterization just as a cheap and lazy attempt to create a relatable character, like saying, hey, people that watch anime are losers that never go out of their homes. Let's make the main character a need and all the watchers will be able to immediately identify with him. I have just seen one episode of ReLife, but if the first episode alone was so good that I had to stop doing everything else to make this video, I'm sure I'm in for one hell of a ride. Thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to see more of this kind of content in the future, please make sure to subscribe and give a like to this video. Thank you so much and see you the next time.